Hey, good afternoon, friends. Today, my friends, is Friday, May the 16th, 2025, and the time now is 2:42 p.m. So, friends, in the United States and also throughout the entire West, the conceptual West, the white West, there are many who have stressed and continue to stress the notion, propagate the notion of a replacement theory or a great replacement theory. This is the idea that the white population in the United States or in the West, in Europe, is dwindling and that minority group or groups, non-white groups from places around the world, the undesirable places around the world, are replacing the white population. This theory is being propagated without considering the fact that in the United States and throughout the West, the white population does significantly outnumber every racial or ethnic group to a very significant amount. Now, friends, because of the belief in this so called great replacement theory or the replacement theory, many Christian rights and many who are Christian nationalists or many who are on the right and the MAGA, okay, the MAGA and Trumpers out there, they do believe that the government should take drastic measures. And friends, it seems that it is perhaps the reason why many do stress the notion of anti-abortion and all that sort of things. Now, I'm not saying that I'm for or against abortion. That is not my point here. My point here is the fact that many do propagate the notion of a replacement theory or a great replacement theory, and that the government should do this or that. Now, if you look at the whole idea of the anti-abortion stance that many on the right takes, it is as if they are doing it to basically increase the white population and decrease the minority population. Now, my friends, in terms of the abortion issue itself, I believe if the government in the United States outlaw abortion, it could increase the white population as much as it could also increase the black or the minority population. And we are talking about the various minority groups and so on. Now, my friends, it seems that many who propagate the notion of a replacement or a great replacement theory are basically strong in terms of their conviction to increase the white population of the United States or the West exponentially. Now, in terms of the United States, I believe that the best way, okay, this is a theory that I've thought about, okay, that I have developed trying to understand the situation. I believe that the best way that the white population can be increased in the United States, the best way to increase the white population of the United States is to destroy Europe. And when I say destroy Europe, I don't mean physical destruction as if go into Europe and dropping bombs. That is not my point. The best way to increase the white population of the United States is to destroy Europe. This basically means if there is a war in Europe and Europe is badly destroyed, white people are going to end up into the United States. They are going to migrate. But when I mean destroy Europe, I also mean and significantly mean economic destruction of Europe. If Europe is destroyed economically, many Europeans will end up in the United States. They will migrate. This, friends, if we go back into history, perhaps it is one of the most significant factor of the factors that led to European exploration, European trade, the boost of European trade in the 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 1900s, and also European colonialism and imperialism. Therefore, if Europe is destroyed economically as much as physically, many Europeans, I believe, will migrate, and many will migrate to the United States. Therefore, the population of the United States, the white population of the United States, will increase exponentially. And this, my friends, I believe is going to be the case for Western countries throughout the world, whether we are talking about Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the rest of the European countries. Now, friends, in terms of international relations and geopolitics, We are seeing Europe is being destroyed in the two ways I've suggested here, or the two ways that I'm suggesting. Therefore, friends, in terms of international relations, in terms of the current state of global relations, Europe, as I've said again, is being destroyed in the two ways I've suggested, or that I am suggesting. To repeat myself, one is that Europe is experiencing a war, and we are talking about European war as led by the United States against Russia, which now is said that the Russians are winning the war. Also, Europe is being destroyed economically, and Europe, in this case, is being deindustrialized, as many prominent thinkers and observers on international relations and European affairs are suggesting. In terms of the war, we are seeing the population of Ukraine dwindling. It is said that about 1 million people have died. Many have left the country to seek greener pastures somewhere else in Europe and around the world. We are seeing the fact that Ukraine's economy, if this war is ended, okay, and there is supposed to be a talk in Turkey or Turkey, if this war is ended soon, Ukraine is being predicted to never be the same again. And my friends, if that is the case, many Ukrainians, I believe, will leave the country for places throughout Europe and throughout the West. In terms of the economy, alarms are being blown all over the world and throughout Europe and the West of the destruction, in this case, the decline of European economy. And this is so much so the case for Germany, which is the giant of Europe. If the economy of Germany declines significantly or is destroyed, then Europe is going to be in bad trouble. Many are stressing that Germany and Europe are being deindustrialized because of the war in Europe, in Ukraine. And we are seeing the emergence, the re-rise of Russia, coupled with the fact that there is a prominent geopolitical star in the world today, and we are talking about China, which is sophisticated to challenge the United States and the West, politically, economically, socially, technologically, and in other ways as well. We are talking in this case academics, we are talking about technology, and so on and so on, okay, development and so on. Once again, friends, Europe is being destroyed in two ways. I do believe if the war in Europe continue and if it persists to the point where it becomes an all-out war in Europe, which also could engulf the entire world. However, friends, let's say that the war in Europe becomes an all-European war and Europe is badly battered. Many Europeans are going to leave Europe for the United States. However, friends, in terms of economics, many Europeans, and in this case I'm talking specifically of young Europeans, are leaving the continent to seek greener pastures elsewhere in the United States, Canada, Australia, and elsewhere in the West. Yes, Europe is stable and people are traveling to Europe. However, let's assume that the situation in Europe becomes very bad, whether we are talking about in terms of the war in Ukraine or just economics and deindustrialization. I believe in this case, many Europeans will leave the continent for the United States. Therefore, this is my theory. Yes, we are seeing, friends, many in the United States and throughout the West trying to ban abortion, trying to reduce immigration, okay? In the United States, we are seeing Donald Trump deporting many people, okay, minority people. And just this week, Trump has brought about 49 South African Afrikaners, white South Africans, to resettle them in the United States. There are those who are stressing the idea of traditional wife, basically having wives to just be at home, quote unquote. That crap is not going to fly. The vast majority of American women, I believe, are not going to subscribe to that nonsense, to stay at home and be quote unquote traditional wife or wives. They are not going to put up with that. Therefore, friends, the best way, I believe, once again, to boost, to increase the white population in the United States is destroy Europe in both two ways, or in either ways. In this case, destroy Europe physically in terms of warfare, and possibly we can also say natural disaster, or destroy Europe economically, deindustrialized Europe. If that happens, the white population of the United States will increase drastically. Now, perhaps that could be another way to do this, to increase the white population of the United States. This means that you drain the rest of the world, places around the world, of their white population, relocate and resettle these white populations from different parts of the world into the United States. Now, friends, perhaps this is what Donald Trump is doing. As much as we can say that settling white South Africans in the United States, resettling them in the United States, is also a white power, white supremacist slash solidarity gestures to say that we are here, we are in this, we are white people, we are here for our people. As much as that is the case, perhaps others can argue, many can argue that what Trump is doing, if it continues, where let's say a very significant amount or number of the white South Africans are relocated and resettled into the United States, perhaps we can argue that what Donald Trump is doing is also the notion, the idea, or an activity, a policy of boosting, increasing the white population of the United States by relocating whites from elsewhere into the United States. Now, there are many who are saying that the whites of South Africa who are being resettled in the United States are going to have a bad time. However, I do believe it is wrong. That's not going to be the case because the United States is built in the eyes of and for white people. Therefore, friends, it is going to be easy for those white South Africans as long as they speak English. This is so much so the case for the young ones who, if they migrate to the United States at a very young age, they can assimilate. Yes, the older ones are going to have their accent and their old ways from South Africa. However, the world of the United States is built for white people. Therefore, whites from around the world, I do believe, are going to find it easy to assimilate because they're going to be in a world that is there to accommodate, to assimilate, to aid them in bettering themselves, and quote unquote the white race. The historian and scholar Gerald Horne stressed the notion of white solidarity, okay, where whites during the era of colonialism in the British Americas basically were working together despite their differences. And even poor whites, white people from various parts of Europe who often were fighting themselves, fighting one another, migrated to the United States and they all assimilated, okay? They basically became white despite their differences and they boost the numbers as a means to subjugate the Africans, enslave the Africans, subjugate and destroy the Native Americans. Once again, friends, I am going to end by repeating my theory here that the best way to boost the white population of the United States can be done in two ways. One is that you can destroy Europe physically. You can do that through war or through a natural disaster. Or number two, you can destroy Europe economically. Destroy Europe's economy and deindustrialize Europe. When that is accomplished, white people from Europe are going to migrate elsewhere. They're going to be resettled elsewhere. Okay, voluntarily, they are going to move to the United States, which in this case will increase the population of white people in the United States. Now, friends, please tell me what you think, and I really want to know what you think. But, friends, I am going to end here. I want to thank you for being a member of the Echoing Voice community, my friends. But most especially and most importantly, friends, I want to thank you a lot for watching the Echoing Voice. Peace.